Okay, the last video we made a table view. Now we're going to look at making slightly more complicated arrays and calling them in our table view. To do that, we need to create a new file. This time it's just a Swift file. Next. And we'll call this one student create. And this is where we're going to make our new class, which is the name of the object that will store all of our information about each element. In this case, it'll be student. So it's going to be class, give it a name, student, and then we open our brackets, and we will close our brackets down there. In here, we'll declare all of the elements that we're going to. So we might have a var name, which will be of type string. We might have a var age, which will be an int. We might have a var, oops, that's a lowercase v there, sorry. Might have a var height, which will be a int as well. And then we might have a whatever variables you want. Really, you can make as many or as little as you like. Then you need to actually init those variables. Initialize them is what we're looking at doing there. And I'll just go through that next step, and then we've made our class student. So what we do, and this may seem like a lot of repeating, but this is what we need to do. So we go init, and then it will be open brackets, name, string, age, int, height, int, and we'll open our brackets again and make sure we've got the brackets closed there. The final part of initializing it is in these sections. We're going to go self.name equals name, self.age or equals age, self.height equals height. Now again, that does seem like you are repeating yourselves a lot, but this allows us to initialize a student and send the variables their name, their age, and their height, and it will store it as one unit. Now we've got this declaration, we can go back into the table view controller, and up the top, instead of making a really simple array, we can make a more complicated one. We might go student list, with lowercase as conventional, student list, and that is of type student. And then we can set what we want those to be. Just need a colon in there to say this is the type that we're making, and we're going to make an array of students so that we can go equals students. So we open up our array and we go student, and we will need to send the name. So the first one was name, and that's a string, so we're going to call it, let's say, Sarah. Student name, we might go Sarah, comma, next we had age, and that might be 14, then we had height, and that might be 154. Close, that's our first unit. Then we go comma, and we can put in our next student. The student, and they have the name, Bob, age 14, and the height 134. And you can put in as many of these as you wish, and these just become elements in an array. I'll just add a couple more. Okay, so now we've added a couple more students in, so we now have an array, student lists, that contains student, and each student contains a name, an age, and a height. And we're going to put their names in our table. Now you'll see we've got an error here because I deleted the array names. We now want our text to be student list. Oops. Student list. And this time we want it to be index path dot row, which again tells us the row, but this time we want to specify whether we want the age, the height, or the name, which are all variables that we can access from our object student. So we're going to put the name in there. Now at the moment I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, so I just need to make sure I've got enough rows for that, so I'll put it down to 4, and we'll see if we can build that. Okay, so here we are. Let's see if and there we have our 4 names coming up in our scrollable text field. I'll just do one more thing to show you a couple more options. If we go back to our main storyboard, when we select our cell and click on the attributes inspector, we had it on basic. If we put in subtitle as well, that gives us the title and the subtitle that we can edit. So if we go back to our table view controller, text label text to the student name, now we want to adjust that same cell, but instead of text label it's called detail text label, again with a question mark, dot text equals, and this time we want to refer to our student list. Again, for the same index path dot row, so that means we're adding it to the same row, but this time we're going to add in our, let's put our age in. And when we run this, hopefully we'll get the name followed by the age. Oh, we've got an error. This is of course expecting a string, so we need to force that to be a string. So you can see that .age was an int, and we of course need to be putting this in a text field, so it needs to be a string. So we need to cast that as a string. So if we put the whole thing in brackets and put string at the front, it should cast that as a string and be able to store it in the text. Okay, so when we click our button this time, we get our names: Sarah, age 14, Bob 14, Bill 15, and Penny 15. So you can store those bits of information. So you can see in this section here, we can add elements to change the way that cell looks. There's a whole lot of other attributes you can look into as well, but we'll leave it at that for now.